have $100.
Not anymore, you don't. Poof.
On November 29, 2011, Drake released the motto, which popularized the word YOLO, the once trademark catchphrase of the now well-known subreddit Wallstreetbets. Little did Drake know he wasn't just popularizing a cringy millennialism and double wristing, truly two sides of the same coin. He was setting humanity down a slippery slope of degeneracy that would replace our idea of a retirement plan with an 11-leg Washington Wizards parlay, which, to be fair, in this day and age are both equally unlikely ever to materialize. Prior to COVID, Wallstreetbets was actually a pretty small community of mostly white-collar, early middle-aged professionals, usually in finance or software, who would write up what was called a due diligence or DD report on a niche stock or commodity they thought was going to experience a massive price move in the next week or two due to an impending and exciting catalyst. Then they'd post the positions they'd taken to capitalize on the idea before following up later with their losses. For non-market people, you need to understand that when people talk about stocks, they're talking about how you can take your hypothetical savings, buy a piece of someone else's business, and then get the rewards from their work by clicking one button on the internet and then not doing anything. When I told people who don't know this, it's a pretty common reaction to think it sounds too good to be true and must be a scam, which is partially true, but it's also the bedrock of the entire global economy, so you better get with the times. If this is even remotely revelatory for anyone, you better forget it, because Wall Street and Wallstreetbets is not about figuring out how to maximize returns on your capital by investing in actually good businesses like Costco or Toyota. It's realizing that there are heavily traded financial derivatives for orange juice futures, and this is going to be a screwdriver summer, my girlies. During this era of the mid to late 2010s, Wallstreetbets, along with the rest of Reddit, gradually started to skew to a younger and larger audience as it became more of a social media app, resulting in a lot more college students who hadn't quite cut their teeth in the derivative markets to join the scene. This culminated in the finale of the OG era of Wallstreetbets in 2019, when user Control the Narrative used a Robinhood exploit to get $48K in margin on a $2,000 account, or as he described, leveraged for my personal risk tolerance. Then he bought $50,000 worth of Apple puts, held through earnings, then live streamed himself reacting to losing it all, uttering the now infamous After asking Wallstreetbets if he's going to go to jail and what he should do, a user assuaged his concerns by saying, just delete the app. This, however, would quickly be forgotten, as literally at the same time, China was welding people into their apartment buildings for catching what was seemingly just a bad case of pangolin fever, which caused many people to say, oh, classic China, as they arrogantly enjoyed their Western freedoms and abundance of toilet paper. The second era of Wallstreetbets coincided with its massive surge in popularity during COVID, because everyone was forced inside indefinitely with thousands in stimulus checks and unemployment payments that they desperately needed to avoid using to pay down their student debt, as that was congressionally deferred and would obviously never be coming back. The COVID era was one of the best Wallstreetbets ever had, because most people getting involved with markets for the first time were just panicked that the entire global economy was going to collapse and we'd all die. Meaning it wasn't so much about making money or coming up with a dumb circle jerk DD, it was about Wallstreetbets becoming a front page subreddit where the best and brightest 20-year-olds could try to educate the masses. Then I could not understand anything they said and just make fun of them with a meme and get 10 times as many upvotes. It really made you feel that if we're all going to die, at least we'd die together. And it wasn't like you were losing money, it felt like we were losing money. Which everyone was, because actual Wall Street was siphoning as many extra stimulus checks as possible from the peasants to the wealthy, which at least brought back a sense of normalcy to the middle class. To me, the absolute peak of this era, other than the memes, was that because everyone in the community was so green, all the trends were just a random internet guy making up a nonsensical but easy to follow narrative, and then everyone would just pile into a trade. This included such classics as, we'll buy liquor stocks because everyone's at home drinking, which was only derailed because the author did not take into account that one of the biggest customers of the alcohol industry was restaurants and bars, which were in fact closed. There was also, we'll buy Activision because Call of Duty Warzone would massively beat revenue estimates because everyone's at home playing it, which was only derailed because Candy Crush, Activision's actual highest grossing game, was only played by Chinese moms at airports and missed on revenue completely. Another iconic moment was the SPAC bubble, which is shell companies that are publicly listed that would acquire private companies in order to backdoor them into public markets for a huge fee without going through a lengthy and legally rigorous IPO. This brought us such stocks as Lordstown Motors, Hyliion, and ChargePoint, which are all now down 99% from their peak. Then there's my personal pet peeve scam stock, Nikola Motors, a company that commissioned a few 3D renders of a hydrogen truck from Fiverr, then filmed themselves rolling another truck down a hill to make it look like it worked. Market cap? $30 billion. A company with a single 3D render was worth more than Ford Motors. I personally hated this company with an Air Canada level of passion because of the brazen intention of the CEO to just make shit up all the time, which is exemplified by the time he pointed at the tablet in the driver's seat and said, "This media console uses a custom operating system we designed that runs on an HTML supercomputer." If you don't know why that's so tilting, that's like me saying, yeah, we recreated DoorDash, but instead of delivering the food to your house, we just cook it for you directly in the app. My single favorite event in the COVID era was one of the many guys who in April of 2020 bought a bunch of futures contracts for West Texas Intermediate crude oil when everyone ran out of space to store it and prices hit negative $32 a barrel. Hours later, he sold every contract except one as the price rose to negative $4 for a nice profit. He went on Wallstreetbets to brag that just his one remaining contract was worth over $26,000 and that trading for the contract expired, so he'd locked it in at that price. Another user then pointed out that an expired WTI futures contract isn't cash settled and that he didn't lock in a $26,000 profit. He locked in $26,000 worth of crude oil that would be physically delivered to him in Cushing, Oklahoma. At the time, this was the funniest misunderstanding I'd ever read and is up there with the guy who lost it all on ornamental gourds. Do yourself a favor and pause to read this one. I remember seeing this for the first time, actually laughing my ass off and thinking, this is literally the funniest satire I have ever read. And then I looked at the guy's post history and was like, there's no fucking way. There's actually no fucking way. Frankly, homie must be doing fine now because he might be the only person I'm certain could not be replaced by AI. In 2021, as COVID was nearing an end, we began the final chapter of Wallstreetbets that led us into the modern day, which was the GameStop short squeeze. As of right now, the most upvoted post in the entire history of Reddit is about GameStop, which gives you a sense of scale of this whole operation. In brief, user Roaring Kitty posted a good old-fashioned DD on how GameStop might appear to be a failing brick-and-mortar retailer being usurped by online digital video game sales, that because this was such a consensus Wall Street view, the amount of people who were borrowing stock to sell it short was immense, and his idea was it was a classic setup for a short squeeze, which means if the price were to go up a lot in a short period of time, all the people shorting would be forced to buy more stock to close their losing position, resulting in a Volkswagen-style infinite money glitch for buyers. Actual finance people were quick to point out the drastic differences between these circumstances and how the DD didn't really make that much sense, but this is Reddit, and Michael Burry was in on the short squeeze thesis, so as everyone's hero George Soros said, show me a bubble and I'm buying. What a little cutie. I don't want to get too deep on the lore because to this day almost every white-collar guy I've met in real life over 30 has a defense mechanism for the money they lost on this trade. But in short, what was originally a novel trade idea with a moderate return potential turned into a global meme where every 20 to 55-year-old male on planet Earth bought GameStop stock or options and the price went absolutely vertical. Roaring Kitty started by posting his positions worth $50,000 and peaking at $48 million. If you're wondering why literally everything is a loot box nowadays, it's because ever since the boys have been chasing this moment. The final conclusion was when GameStop squeezed to over a $30 billion market cap, and every broker's website was fighting for its life to handle all the traffic because they weren't using a supercomputer running on HTML. After reaching nearly $500 split adjusted, the stock then suddenly collapsed limit down after limit down to nearly $100 because Robinhood literally turned off the buy button for all their users. This started a grand conspiracy that still persists to this day that the powers that be on Wall Street were getting caught with their pants down by retail vigilantes, but used their connections to the deep state to illegally make Robinhood manipulate the market to their own interests. If you ask someone what evidence they have for this, it usually boils down to, well, it really felt like it. And while I feel bad for people when they lose their money to an unforeseen risk, especially me, you have to check yourself to make sure you don't fall victim to the market phenomenon called trader on the way up, community member on the way down. After this peak moment of the little guy finally having a brief experience of actually occupying Wall Street and seeing it slip through their fingers, Wallstreetbets has settled in as a comfortable and pretty big finance news and meme subreddit that I enjoy now but think, well, these kids don't know what it was really all about. And it feels to me like looking at photos of myself when I was 20 and remembering the good old days. Then someone says, Jamie, that was 10 years ago and your lifestyle is exactly the same now. And I'm like, they don't know about lumber liquidators. In my opinion, the most relevant societal impact of Wallstreetbets has been its influence on the gamblification of modern culture. Well, I'd argue, and I think most people intuit, that this whole undercurrent is caused by the feeling of young guys and gals being like, well, I'm never buying a house or building towards an achievable future, but if I YOLO my extra savings into a lottery ticket, I might win and get to escape. Which is really sad because this has contributed to both left and right-wing political radicalization, reinforces corporate interest in gambling features for everything, and encourages cultural attitudes that reward extremism as solutions. And the worst part, literally none of them are available in Canada. Now, if you're someone who uses Robinhood, you might be thinking, wait, they sell my order flow to Wall Street so they can have a leg up on retail traders? Well, that's okay, I guess, because sometimes they give me confetti, but if anyone were doing that with my phone number, email, and personal data, that would not be okay. Well, I've got some bad news, because I'm personally buying all your personal information from data brokers right now, so I can get a free coffee every day of the year from Starbucks. Should have been using today's sponsor, Incogni. Unlike Robinhood, where you look at the $50,000 in margin debt you have and say, well, hope this works, and delete the app, Incogni is instead an app that tells data brokers on your behalf, Yeah, you gotta delete that personal data, and we'll follow up to be sure it's been removed. Your 50k margin call isn't going anywhere. I mean your email, phone number, and other personal information websites sell to any speculative entity who might want to buy it. Plus, with Incogni's new custom removals plan, if you find yourself on any public databases like whitepages.com or Trellis, you can make a request to the Incogni removals team and they'll work to have it taken down. It's a good thing we don't have physical telephone books anymore, because I'm pretty sure at this point Incogni could raise its own standing army to embargo distribution. If you'd like to give Incogni a try, you can use the code CASUALLY through the link in the description for 60% off an annual plan.